This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are back talking about the Cavaliers. We are specifically talking about how they are struggling in the second round against the Pacers. What have the Pacers done to really stop them? Can the Cavs overcome these injuries? And finally, does Atkinson have what it takes to bring them back from down 1-0 upon 2-0? And can they win the title this year? And also, we're talking about, is Michigan going to fire their head coach? Are they going to have the death penalty? All that and so much more coming up on Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and it is May. We're alive and well. It's May. It's crazy that it's May. I was thinking about this the other day, Josh, that it's literally, I feel like yesterday was like Christmas and we were getting ready for, the Rose Bowl, and we were talking about all these different things. And next thing we know, we're almost halfway through the year already, which is just wild in my eyes. But other than that, how's it going there for you, Josh?
It's going good. We've been getting a lot of rain over here in Ohio in May. It's basically been on again, off again every few hours this weekend.
May brings May flowers, not really.
Well, April showers is what brings May flowers, but we're
You're
seeing
skipping that.
a ton of flowers yet, but we're getting a lot of, I think, rain that hasn't come out just yet. But hanging in there, staying dry. Haven't gotten to be outside all that much. It kind of sucked. This last weekend was my weekend off work, and I had to basically be trapped inside. Didn't get to really enjoy it a whole lot. But I needed to catch up on some rest and definitely needed some extra sleep. So I'll take it.
Well, Josh, I said before we recorded. Now people don't realize, we talk a little bit before we record. We kind of have an idea, a game plan, right? But I said that, Josh, I have a story, right? A story that I wanted you to hear and I wanted everyone else to hear. Because, as many of you know, I coach in the Hungarian Football League, which is the American football top division in Hungary. We have 7 teams, 8 teams, whatever. So anyways, I want to preface this story with saying that the team I'm about to talk about is a team that jumped from the second division to the top division this year, and basically got a really rich guy to buy a whole bunch of players and coaches from other teams and other leagues, and basically became like the Warriors and just decided to buy everyone, basically, right? So that's the preface. Now, the head coach of this team is a coach that I coached with my first year here, who is a straight up jerk. He's not a very nice guy, right? Anyways, so that kind of prefaces everything. So anyways, this team, they're facing a team that is kind of a unknown team really in our league that's kind of been like mediocre, and then all of a sudden this year is playing really well. They're undefeated, and they go out and beat the team, the Saints, which is the Saints are the team that has all the money, right? So the Sharks beat the Saints, and I just thought, hey, that's a great win for the Sharks, right? It's a cool win, good upset. Saints lost some guys for injury. I was like, oh man, it's a bummer, and I was just like, okay, it must suck. Then I find out yesterday that after the game, the Saints head coach, which is our former coach, and you got to realize that some of the players used to play for us. The OC is a good friend of mine. We've gotten to know each other through coaching. Anyways, head coach after the game, he gives their speech or whatever, and then lets all the coaches talk. And sometime during the team meeting, the head coach turns around and knocks out the offensive coordinator, hits him between the nose, and is knocked out. And like the guy who, by the way, this is the thing about the offensive coordinator is that this guy is doing more than what he should as the offensive coordinator. He works a full-time job. He's the one that was setting up practices. The head coach doesn't even do any of the work. He's just kind of there. He picked up all the imports from America, from the airport. He travels with the guys, all these different things. And I guess they blame him for the loss, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, there's a big scandal that's going on in the league right now, because it's like, how are you letting the head coach still coach? Supposedly he's still going to be coaching, which is beyond me. But anyways, that is my story. It sounded like almost you look back at all the different coaches and the famed coaches of the opposing teammates, but I've never seen a coach punch his own OC, which is just mind-boggling. So I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts and your reaction.
I'm just trying to think of like Ryan Day punching Chip Kelly in the face, or Kevin Stefanski punching Tommy Reese in the face, or something like that, and what that reaction would be like on the much more like grand scale of, the American football world. But Yeah,
It's wild to me. Like I can't wrap my head around it. Like as someone who's a head coach now, who was an OC last year, like I can never see myself going, we lost a game. It's like almost one of those things where I think he thought they were going to be undefeated because they bought everyone and he was mad. And it's just
sure.
like, but I never thought that like that would never put me to the point where I need to assault someone in front of my team.
Hmm.
It's just
Yeah,
wild.
yeah. What a story.
By the way, that is Josh's first time hearing that story. He didn't want to hear it until we were on air. So his natural reaction. But
Yeah.
speaking of stories, Josh, what are we going to be talking about today?
We got a lot of local stuff in the Ohio sports world today. It's been relatively quiet nationally, but
Yeah.
it's cool that some of the bigger stories that we've gotten here have been all related to our teams in Ohio. So we're going to start off with the Cavs in the
Yeah.
NBA conference
Who we
semifinals.
really hyped up, by the way. We really hyped up last episode. And now all of a sudden,
Last week we had a lot of good things to say. We didn't have any team that we were really worried about outside of Boston. We love the depth in
which
Cleveland,
Boston
but
also lost, and the Thunder lost.
Thunder lost too, yeah. So we are here in conference semis, and we lost game one to the Pacers. And as it
At
turns out,
home.
Ben, yeah, starting off at home. And we got game two happening tonight, also at home as we're recording. And some of that depth is really going to be tested because as of a few hours ago, it was reported by Brian Windhurst that Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and DeAndre Hunter all missed shoot around earlier today. And
Huge.
Windhurst
Two best
said,
defenders.
quote, typically, if you don't do shoot around, that's not a good sign. Pretty obvious, but
Yeah.
you also
As a
mentioned
coach, yeah. As a
before the
coach, it's
show that that's a good chance that they'll be missing tonight, 98% chance. So that depth is definitely gonna be tested tonight. It's gonna put a lot more weight on Donovan Mitchell's shoulders as well. We'll see how the
Jared
team
Allen's gonna have to step
responds.
up. Jared Allen's gonna
Jared
have to
Allen's
play
going to
both
have to step
ways.
up as well. Uh, but yeah, I mean, basically, it's just you. It really would suck to have to go to Indy down 2-0, but I guess that's the news right
Eh,
there. And what's your reaction and
I
thoughts?
guess my thing is like the Garland thing, I guess he's been dealing with for a few games.
Garland, it's a toe.
My thought was if you knew he was dealing with it maybe in the Heat series, why didn't you just bench him the last two games, right? Like you were already up 2-0 because
Up 50.
now I feel like what you're doing now is now you've put yourself in a tough spot because look, DeAndre Hunter, what everyone says, DeAndre Hunter and Mobley are your two best defenders. Now you take them off the court. Now you're going to have to play Dean Wade, which nothing against Dean Wade, but he's not a defensive prowess. You're going to have to put Mitchell basically, he's going to get one-on-one, maybe doubled at times. I, to me, it worries me. Okay, this is the thing. I'll put it this way. Just because we don't really know what's going to happen in this game tonight. If they win this game, I'm not as worried because I feel like then they can kind of bounce back. They can kind of figure out they've got a rhythm at that point. If they lose this game, you are praying and hoping that the dislocated thumb is not a big issue because trust me, as someone who's played basketball, especially like it was a shooter, even if it's your offhand, if you've dislocated your thumb, it is really hard to get any feeling of that ball because your thumb is
Yeah.
always going to be there somewhere.
That's Hunter's injury
That's
is
really
the
hard.
thumb, and
Yeah.
then Mobley's the ankle.
And as someone who missed almost my whole senior season with an ankle injury, they suck. Like I've always said that the worst injury I've ever had was basically a messed up ligaments and a really bad ankle sprain. Worse than anything that I could have gone through because you can't really walk, you can't run, and that's what worries me because like look, if it was just going to be okay, Garland's back, Hunter's back, we're just missing Mobley, I think you can kind of find a way around that. But if you're missing all three, you're asking a lot. Like Ty Jerome's gonna have to figure out where he is because he's kind of been lost the last couple games. I just to me I go, you have to survive this battle because this is the thing. If they get through this series with all this they're dealing with, they're gonna be fine. I just think it really sucks that you're dealing with. It's like what Windhorst said. I think too is like if this would have been the regular season, most likely Garland would be out 2 to 3 weeks. Mobley would probably sit out 2 or 3 weeks to get healthy, and like now you're trying to get them back in a couple days. That's what's scary to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get to watch game one. I was just kind of following along on my phone, and I saw that after three, we were down, I think, just two, and was like, all right, well, we'll figure out a way to
Yeah.
pull it out, and then we end up losing by 9 in that one. And then as far as like the total performance goes in that game, We only shot, I think it was,
We
yes,
shot
23.
terrible. They
We
shot
shot
terrible,
23% from
which
three,
is not like them at
45.
all. Which is not going to happen again, by the way. I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to
Yeah,
happen.
I think that's an off one. Even from the free throw line, just 72%.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's off.
that was basically the story, it looks like. Assists and rebounds were pretty much the same. Indy even had 17 turnovers. We only had 8, but really it just looks like it came down to
Halliburton.
the shooting, and then ultimately our health. Like that's what
It-
was going to come down to.
it's like, no offense to Thompson, like the guy's been with the Cavs for so long, but he's not a guy you can rely on anymore to dominate in the middle. And so you're really putting that pressure on Jared Allen, and that's what worries me because he's not an offensive threat as much. Uh, so I don't know, man. I guess you go Ty Jerome out there, but I mean, you're struggling to find scoring options is really the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we're gonna really see what Kenny Atkinson can what kind of magic he can pull out of the hat,
Coach of
which
the
that kind of
year.
that's what I was gonna transition to is that is
Oh
your NBA
boy.
Coach of the Year, which might be a top candidate for the most meaningless award in all professional sports. But at least this season, looking across the board, I don't really know how many other guys you could point to and be like, yeah, that's a much better coaching job, or that was a much better
It's just
coaching
funny
job.
that
But
Bickerstaff finished second and he was the Cavs coach last year, which I just think is hilarious.
yeah, it's an award that like even Byron Scott has won, Budenholzer has won. He got fired. Wasn't it was it Dwayne Casey? Is that his name? He
Yeah.
won it with the Pistons and got fired,
Yeah.
or with the Raptors and got fired like at the end of the season. It's like here's Coach of the Year. It's like you fired the Coach of the Year. Like how important is this award?
Yeah, I look, I think he's done a great job. Like we've both have said this on the show. Like they haven't gone through stretches where they've really sucked. Like they've had a few off games here and there, but for the most part, they've been very solid, which is something that we've never had with the Cavs since LeBron left. It's always been like they go on a streak of like 8 games of really good ball, and then they have like a 10 game just terrible moments and everything like that. Atkinson, I think the difference between him and Bickerstaff is Atkinson actually like lets players play. Like he said it in like when he win the award, it's like it's about you guys. Like I think Bickerstaff cared about his players that way, but I feel like Atkinson really shows it. Like I'm just going to put the best guys. Like we're going to be a team, and if you don't want to be a team, you're not a part of this team. And I think that's what I love about him is he's like everyone's going to be on part of this team. You're all going to play. You're all going to participate in your own way, and I think that's what I love about him. It's just now, okay, here's the wall. Here's the wall. You've got to figure out how do you get around this wall because if you can get around this wall, I don't think any team stops the Cavs if they can get around this wall.
Yeah. So I guess that's the good news. Is like with game one, it was a bad shooting performance. It wasn't really a whole lot of anything else, and we
Yeah.
don't expect to shoot that bad at least. But the depth is definitely going to be tested, and some of those guys out like Garland, like Mobley, are not like we said. And Hunter's one of our better defenders too, but like some of our top defenders are going to be out, and some of our top offensive guys are going to be out too. So we'll see what Atkinson can do. I love the hire mostly because of what he did with the Nets. I thought they were a team that also didn't have, a ton of superstar power, kind of like us. Really got a lot out of the youth and the depth, and really seemed to pull, the best out of the team. And we're gonna find that out, I guess, these next few games is if we're gonna see, what kind of version of the Cavs we're gonna see. Guys like you said, Dean Wade and Ty Jerome and Max Strus, and if they're gonna, rise to the occasion because it's gonna fall on them just as much as it's gonna Atkinson.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't care how you get this win. If it's like 87 to 84, I don't care. Like you just get out of here with a win. That's all that matters at this point.
Yeah. We officially got all the first round matchups done, so we'll just kind of go around. The Thunder, I think we knew that they swept the Grizzlies last time we recorded. No
Yeah.
shocker there. The Nuggets come out and win 4 games to 3 against the Clippers. That was
And
an
beat the
entertaining
Thunder game one.
and beat the Thunder game one. Yeah, I know after that series against the Clippers, I can't remember who it was on Denver, but said that they got what they wanted out of like the coach firings. Like that was a big deal. Like near the
Yeah.
end of the season, they're firing head coach and GM, and it's like you're about to go into the playoffs here. Like that's what's going on internally. But for whatever reason it was, they said that they got the results they wanted out of the coaching change. So going on then getting a good start against the Thunder there. The Timberwolves, they finished off the Lakers. They won that series 4-1, and I know a lot's been talked about LeBron, whether this is the
It
end of
won't
his
be.
career,
It won't
but
be.
it's
It's not going to
it's
be.
not. Like I can't
Nah.
imagine LeBron not going out on a farewell tour,
And
being
next
as
year, and
needy
next
for the media
year,
attention as he wants.
next year, where's the All-Star game? LA. Like
Okay.
it's a whole it's perfectly set up for LeBron to go if this is going to be my next year, it's going to be my last year. It's a perfect way to set it up. Everything's just lined up perfectly for him to kind of just go, I'm done. But also, Bryce James is draft eligible in like 2 years. So does he
That's the other
wait?
thing is how much longer is he going to be? But there's no way that he retires without the media farewell tour. Bottom line,
No.
he loves that kind
Heck
of attention
no.
way too much, man. There's no way that like Nike
It's
would
always
even
funny.
let him do that either,
Well,
because Nike's gonna have, some sick merch for
yeah.
that, I bet.
It's also like when he says, like, I'm a very humble player. And I'm like, eh, are you? Are
Not
we?
really.
Are
Yeah.
you?
I love the clip that came out. I can't remember which game it was, but he like flopped and fell on the ground and put his hand over his face, and then the camera caught him
Yeah, he
like
like
looking up to
peeked. And I
see
was
if
like,
like
seriously?
peek to see if he got the call that he wanted or whatever.
Yeah. It's
Ridiculous. Um, the Warriors had a 7 game series against the Rockets and pulled that off, so they will be playing Minnesota now. That's the 6 versus the 7 there. That series tips off tonight. Um, then going over to the East, we already mentioned the Cavs. The Pacers finished off the Bucks 4 games to 1. The Knicks beat the Pistons
yeah.
4 games to 2, and Celtics beat the Magic 4 games to 1 there. So the Knicks Celtics series goes into game 2 tomorrow.
Nick's got
And
that
right now the
lead.
Knicks
Stephen
do
A.
have a
Smith is
1-0 lead
just
right now.
jumping
Yes.
off the rails right now.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. The Knicks, at least in the regular season, I think they at least the last time I checked, they were winless against like
They were
the
the
three
top
best
three. Yeah,
teams.
three to
Yeah.
best teams. Yeah. And fun fact, Pacers were 3-1 going into this series against the Cavs. So it's kind of weird. It's the weird whole
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah. So that's what's going on as far as the NBA playoff scene goes. We were going to talk about another, not coach change, but a promotion, or I guess the end of an era of one of the
Yeah.
better coaches.
Great. One of the greatest coaches of all time. I mean,
Yeah,
technically, winningest coach of all time. So
that would be Greg Popovich. If you didn't hear the news,
he
is
looked rough, by the
transitioning.
way. He looked
That's a
rough.
shocker how long he's still been coaching, but he is moving up into a front office role. Will not be
El Jefe
uh,
is what they're calling him, I believe.
El Jefe. Yeah, I think that's he had a shirt that said that too. That's going to be his name, but
Yeah. But did you
that'll be
think he looked?
interesting.
You think I think that they hit a really how bad that health was because that stroke must have really because he couldn't move his like if you notice he couldn't move anything on his left, like his like when he was up there. I mean he looked very weak, like not like the pop we're used to seeing. That's very jumping and joy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Even for being as old as he is, or even as monotone with media interviews as he is, you could always see the passion come out from the
Yeah, but that was oof,
side court side, but.
that was
No
rough.
idea. They haven't picked anybody to be the next coach, right?
They
That's probably
did.
gonna be
They
some.
did.
Oh, they did. They do
Yeah,
have one.
so I can pull it up. They named his assistant kind of a no name guy, and everyone's freaking out. But I said, yeah, but look how many no game name guys have ended up being head coaches somewhere because he just knows who to pick. The guy's name is Mitch Johnson. So he was the G League coach for a long time, and then yeah, so then he's been on the staff, I believe, for like 6 years. So he's been around the team for a while. So it's just an internal hire.
An internal hire, yeah. Maybe somebody that he's been even prepping,
Yeah, because he's a
behind the
younger
scenes
guy. I
to be
think
the
he's only
next
like
guy. Yeah.
40 something. He's not very old. So
I had always thought that Tim Duncan might be the next
I
guy,
don't know.
especially once he joined
I
the
don't know if
staff at some
Tim.
point.
I think Tim's one of those guys. At least the vibe I get is he's not a guy that wants to be a head coach. He just wants to teach and like be that kind of teacher. You know that vibe. I think he steps up when he needs to be an interim coach, but I don't think he ever wants to be like this is my team. To be honest, at least the vibe I get.
And that could be the case, but just being like as monotone and as boring as he was, I thought it was very similar to the way that like Popovich's mannerisms
Povich
can
was
be, how
funny
he
though,
talks
man.
to the media.
Like the
Sure.
one the Shaka hack when it was the beginning of the game, they did a tip off and they just fouled him, and then Shaq looks at him and he just like and Pop's like like he has those fun you know on the court. So
Yeah.
again, hats off to Popovich. I mean, the guy is one of the greatest coaches of all time. Truly, he is. He's up there with Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K.
Mike
We can say that.
Krzyzewski,
Yeah, I can't
Coach
say it.
K.
Coach K with with all of the coaches from back in the day, from now. It's just what he's been able to do when the fact is that there's been so many coaches changes around the NBA and he's been there for 25 plus years is just it's awesome to see. It's really awesome to see. It's really cool.
Yeah, like this new I don't know if you'd call it a generation, but this new stage in the NBA, it seems like head coaches, it's like really hard to stick around anywhere really long. You look at the way that the Phoenix Suns are set up right now, they're paying like three different coaches to not coach
Yeah.
their team anymore because they just keep,
It's
it
a
seems
great
like
it's a
getting
great
slam
job.
dunk
It's a
hires.
great job. Get hired and then get fired and get paid all the money you want.
Yeah, like no one's really sticking around. And I think it's just something to do with the way that
It's
every offense
culture.
looks the same now. So it's a culture thing, it's a player ego thing. Like it's really hard to be an NBA head
Like
coach right now. And Pop,
you don't have to like the Spurs, but you have to love what they do with their organization. Like what they how they run their organization is phenomenal.
yeah, yeah, there's not too many other franchises out there that do it like they do.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much everything I think basketball related.
Yeah.
I think Florida, I mean, this isn't professional basketball, but Florida gave their championship coach a nice 6 year extension, I believe, making him one of the higher paid coaches in college. So locking a good one down there. Looks like the Gators might be, on the come up and here to stay for a little while longer on the basketball scene.
Yeah.
But Ohio on the football scene has a lot of interesting things going around. We
Yeah.
saw interesting Jim Knowles interview that we'll talk about at the end. But I think the thing that everybody in college football in general is talking about lately is the self-imposed suspension for Sharon Moore
More's coming.
and Michigan.
More's coming.
We're
Don't
we're
worry.
wondering. So if you
More's
guys
coming.
hadn't heard because you're living under a rock, I think that Michigan's president, if they haven't already, was in talks to switch over to Florida,
He's
which
in Gainesville right now, as far as I know.
yeah, and if you're going from being president of Michigan, which,
It's
Ivy League of the
high
Midwest,
prestige.
yeah, very, very high prestigious job, got a
There's
stick
something coming.
extension,
There's
going over
something
to
coming.
Florida, like you look at that and you're like, that's weird. And then you see Sharon Moore uh, not suspend himself the first, or I don't even know if it was
Oh, I
him or the
love how
AD or
skip
Michigan athletic department,
they
but
skip the two hard games and they're like, "Oh, we'll give them
that's what
these
it's
two."
like. It's like you would think it's just
Okay.
going to be the first two games, but it's like, no, we're going to go into week 3 and 4 because it seems like they're not really worried about that. But the talk out of Michigan is since Sherman Moore has been in Oklahoma before, it's personal and he wants to
Oh,
like
goodness
coach that game
gracious.
against them. It has nothing to do
How
with the
about you
fact that
punish him?
Oklahoma
Punish
could
him.
actually beat them, but that one would hurt. To me, this just is like, why are we still doing this? Because Michigan did this with Harbaugh, the self-imposed suspension. Uh, Now they're doing it with Moore. It's like they're continuing to do this year after year. But
It's
all of
coming.
these things out of Ohio is making everyone believe that something is coming. I'm still a naysayer. I think all that's going to come out of this is maybe a fine or maybe a couple lost scholarships because everybody that like you could like make this hurt that participated is either fired or left. So it's
Well,
like you're going to be punishing a lot of people that weren't there in the
well,
building.
look,
But
I I look at it this way, Josh. So there's an insider that I listen to called Buckeye Scoop. So they obviously do a lot of high stakes, but they're very involved in like the Big Ten scene as well. And they've said a lot of things for months about how the sledgehammer's coming and of the news they've heard behind the scenes, the chatter
yeah,
that's been going around that the
we're
sledgehammer's
waiting.
coming. Because I think what they're doing is they're making sure they're thorough. And again, they don't have to do this until before the season starts or even heck after the season starts. My gut is like you're not going to impose your own ban unless you're trying to be like a little goody two shoes, kiss the ring and say, "Hey, look what we're doing. So can you do less on us?" And also, when your president leaves in the middle of an investigation, seems like he's saying, "I'm trying to jump ship before
I will
my
say,
own
like
butt
it
is
all
on my
doesn't
butt."
look good.
No. So my gut has always said I think there's going to be not a death penalty, but a very severe penalty that's going to hurt the football program. Because look, at the end of the day, whether you agree that they cheated or whether you're saying, well, everyone does it, it does not matter. You got caught, right? And at the end of the day, it's we've all sped in the car before when we're driving, but not everyone gets caught, right? And again, I'm not trying to say that what Michigan did. I'm not as an Ohio State fan. I think what they did was just like low life, kind of like the Astros did. But at the end of the day, they're trying to do what I like to call the band-aid effect, right? They're trying to do their own thing. Oh, we're going to impose this, but also if you're going to do it, make it meaningful. Don't do it against two MAC opponents or a MAC opponent in Nebraska, I believe. How about do it against Oklahoma, make him
I think
suffer
just
for what he
like
did.
to get rid of all that, it should just be like the first few games of the season. Like make it like a standard, we're going to suspend the first few games of the season because that seems like typical when you cherry pick and like this
It just
game and
looks
that
bad.
game
It
like in
looks
the
bad.
middle, it looks like it doesn't look good. So, like I said, I still think that everyone in Ohio is hoping and praying that this is going to be, something along the lines of death penalty or major, you know, uh sledgehammer, like
I
you
think I
said.
think I think the
I
biggest
don't
thing is
think it's going
I
to be
think
like
the
that.
biggest thing is I think they're going to take wins away. I think they would take wins away and then maybe do like they did at Ohio State, take wins away and then maybe you say they're ineligible for a bowl game for a year. Like I think that's probably what's going to happen. Is it take some wins away, take them away from a bowl for 1 or 2 years, and then everything else is going to be normal. That's just my gut. I don't know if that's going to happen. That's just what I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I did see a quote from Joel Klatt. I don't know how recent this was. I didn't see the date or if it's just one that's resurfacing or one that he just made on his show. But he said the more into football you are, like the closer you are to like real major college football, the less you care about like this whole cheating
Yeah, of
scandal or
course.
like
Yeah.
as little as importance as it is. And the further removed you are, like, the I guess the average fan, the more serious you think this is. And I thought that was interesting. A guy that's, covered the sport as long as he has, that's, been a quarterback at Colorado before, and to say something like that, I'm like stealing signs, like if that's what they did and actually did it illegally, seems like it would give you a major advantage if you knew it was coming. So
Oh yeah. I mean, look,
I don't I
as
don't really
someone,
know what he was getting at with
well,
that.
it's
Or
even
it's like it
like
didn't make any sense.
as someone who's like an offensive coordinator right now for my team, like I told my guys this week, like we were changing up some of our wordage that we use, and they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because if anybody watches film, they can see the words we use, right?" And like it's like, and that seems crazy, but like that's just as a coach, that's what you do. So again, it's partly on the coaches for not changing up things, but it's also like, look, if they do have what you do, that is a super big advantage because it's very easy to mess up the rhythm of a team because if you know what's happening, you know what's coming, it's very hard in that sense.
Right. So if in fact they did do what they're being accused of doing, I don't see how that's not a major advantage. But
No, yeah, I mean it's like the Astros when they're basically seeing the signs, right?
yeah,
Like,
again, what do I know? We're just, I guess the
oh
average
yeah,
fan, and Joel Klatt's, so much more knowledgeable than
yeah,
us
so
and
much more
nuanced
knowledgeable
than
than us
us.
that we don't pay attention to those little things. Like, okay, like I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I don't care if I was far away from it or I'm super close. Like that's annoying. If like they can get an advantage, like it's just annoying.
for sure.
like,
If not anything else.
and the fact that the staffer you fire in Stallions makes a Netflix documentary, like doesn't that seem a little red flag to you that he just goes ahead and makes money off of what he does? like the
And
whole
then
thing
didn't
is just
like have
weird.
any major dirt or anything in it
No, there
either.
was no dirt. It was just like, well, this is what they do. They also, I'm like, dude, at least try to spill some beans, make it up or something.
Yeah, big nothing burger with that one. But sticking with college football scene, this is
Yeah,
more zeroed in on Ohio State. Jim Knowles had an interesting
yeah,
interview with, I think it was ESPN, or at least ESPN had the report, just some interesting timing things going on. If I remember correctly, and I can look it up to confirm, or you can back me
yeah,
up on this. Going into Notre Dame, he was asking for a raise
yeah,
after getting a pretty nice
yeah,
raise the year before.
yeah, yeah.
And then not more than 24 hours, or maybe it was not even 2 days after they win the national championship, he's already on the
Calling
phone with
people.
Penn
Yeah,
State,
yeah.
calling people, went out. And then after that got, or that word got to Ryan Day, he told him, don't show up to the parade. We don't want you here. And so then he ends up going to Penn State, which is still one of the more wild, I guess, coaching
It's not even
changes
a
or
big
assistant
move. It's
changes.
just a sideways move.
Well, it's big in the sense that it's like the defensive coordinator of the national champions just took a lateral move at best, but most likely a demotion in the long run. Like Penn
Yeah,
State is about like this is the best that Penn State has ever really gotten in all their like
and they
years
still didn't
of,
win
or
it
at
all.
least our lives as college football
Yeah,
fans. It's like they've always been at like that 9-3 to 10-2 with Michigan and Ohio State always like being losses and getting them every now and then on maybe a down year that one of them have. But to go ahead and do that, it reminded me of Nico. doing what he did
Yeah.
with trying to negotiate money and be like, look at what I've done. Like, I want this much money. It's like, now I'm going to go and take a lesser job, I guess, so I can try to get more money. But Nico ended up with less, and Jim ended up getting more out of his. So I guess,
Yeah.
if it was all about money, good for Jim. But yeah, I just thought the whole timing of that was odd. And if it ruffled any feathers amongst maybe some of the Buckeye faithful, if
Uh,
they're just like
look,
good riddance, even more
I,
so.
I mean, I think there are some that maybe are ruffled. There's always going to be people, fans, especially high state fans, that are going to be mad about it. Look, first off, like you're talking about this 5 months after you left. Like I don't get the reasoning behind it. I guess for me too is that like I think enough Buckeye fans seeing that we lost no one in the transfer portal, seeing that we really didn't lose much outside of the guys going to the draft, and that you got Matt Patricia, who seems like he's got at least got a hand on what's going to happen. I don't think people are as upset about it as I think people would be as they originally were. I think the whole story is like, well, duh, they're not going to talk to you about an extension before the Notre Dame game, like
We got bigger fish to fry here,
before the
buddy.
national championship game, and you're expecting them to give you like, I'm sorry, that's like me going to my boss before a big project's due and going, hey, can we talk about a raise like before we get to this whole like project thing? That's like, and I think again, maybe he did, or maybe he's just making this up and he's just trying to say like, or they never approached me because look, there is obviously truth to the fact that Ryan Day and him were that Ryan Day was frustrated at the defense, which if you watch the Oregon game, there is a reason for it to be frustrating, and there's a reason for the head coach to go in and say you need to fix this. And so my thing is like I don't see how James Franklin is led his program any better than Ryan Day or any different. And and then of course when he took the job, he said it was his dream place to coach, and I'm like, then why are you coming out with this story? I'm just confused at this point because then you said, well, you were willing to take less money to stay at Ohio State. Then why didn't you when they offered you? Well, they offered you me too late. That still doesn't change the fact that you said you would have stayed. Like I don't get the
Yeah.
whole circle behind it and the reasoning behind it because you're going to a school with probably lesser talent. You lost Abdul Carter, so the guy you could have built around, he's not there. You have a couple other obviously young guys you can build around, but Ohio State didn't lose anyone. And you're willing to give up Caleb Downs and all the things you were working with because you have a grudge to grind. I think it's just
Yeah.
weird. And like, of course you're not going to invite him to a parade. Like as much as he did for the team, he basically told you guys middle finger as soon as the game was done. So I don't see a
Hmm.
problem with it personally. I'm not really bothered by it. I don't really care.
I gotcha. Yeah. Just like I said, thought that was interesting with the timing of all that, and some of it just didn't make any sense with the order, like you were just saying. Like if you said this, then why'd you do this? And how does this, you know, really make sense if you said this?
Well,
But
especially like when you waited 4 months. Like I just don't get why this is a big deal now. Like why all of a sudden is this becoming a problem or like a
yeah,
situation?
yeah,
And like I'll be honest, good luck stopping a high state's offense. I don't like you try. I
yeah,
hope you try
for
because
sure.
they're gonna the high state players are very mature. They're gonna not say anything, but I guarantee a lot of those defensive guys are hurt, saying
Hmm.
like you left us because you wanted what more money because you
Right.
wanted to move to Penn State.
Yeah.
Like I would get if you moved to Oregon, I would understand that. Maybe that's a little bit more of a move that could probably get you somewhere. But really, like
Hmm.
the team that can't beat Ohio State at all, like ever, and
Yeah.
yet that's the team you move to. The team that they're off. Drew Aller supposedly is the savior, and Kirk Franklin, James Franklin, James Franklin. Which when was the last time he won a big game, Josh? When was the last time he won a big game?
I guess this college football postseason.
Yeah, but like when it was against a team that was better than this team, when was the last time he won a big game?
Yeah, that's the thing with James Franklin. I think you
Like
look at the record
nothing.
against top 10 teams,
He's awful.
it's never really happened.
I don't get what's enticing about Penn State. I don't get you had an opportunity to go to Oklahoma. You're the place where you made your name for yourself, and you decided to pass on that. Pass on Notre Dame. I mean, that would have been even more funny if he would have just went,
Huh.
"Hey, I'm going to the team you just beat." Look,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just weird. I don't really quite understand the vibe behind it, and Good luck for him. I'm thankful for what he did at Ohio State. He created a very good defense. I think that at the end of the day, he's probably going to look back and regret it. I bet. I wouldn't be surprised if he looks back and goes, "Man, I could have done something," because I think he could have had that DC job for the next 10 years. He could have literally had that job for the next 10 years.
For sure. Like he could have been a
He didn't
lifer
have to
there.
recruit. He didn't have to recruit. He didn't have to do anything. He just showed up and coached defense.
It
So
was a
I
really
don't know.
good, really sick gig. Yeah. Uh, this wasn't necessarily in the show plans, but I know some of the bigger voices in college football have been dropping their post-spring top 25s. I wanted to
Yeah,
read off Joel Klatz and JD Pickels to you and our crowd here and just get some, I guess, initial
yeah.
reactions because we know that some of these teams have gotten some pretty nice performances in their spring games. They've gotten some key additions from the spring portal, and I mean, my memory is going to be a little fuzzy with who's gone where since this is like fresh, but just initial reactions. Some of the teams it seems like are pretty consistent, just like there's a little bit of disagreement on the order of things. But at least reading Joel Klatz, I'll read the top 10 at least. Um, Starting off with Penn State at one, and I would imagine that has to do with the fact that Penn State did get Jim Knowles this offseason and also did a lot of work in the portal to get receivers,
Yeah.
which is something that they've always struggled to get. That's followed by Texas, who also had some really key additions from the portal. I know not just that one position like it was last year, but all around the roster got better there. Uh, and then Arch Manning's taking over at quarterback, so I guess that's interesting. Ohio State at three. Not really necessarily a lot of additions, but they are maintaining a lot. It's going to be interesting seeing how they move post draft after all those guys left. But they recruit as well as they do, so not a lot of people are
And
probably
they got a
worried about
freak.
that.
They have a freak.
Yeah, absolutely. Oregon's at four, Clemson at five, which I have not seen or at least heard a whole lot there that at least shakes or makes me scratch my head.
Also, Clemson playing Notre Dame for the next like 12 years.
They did sign a contract for 12
So
years, I
like,
think,
just
from
join the ACC, Notre
starting in
Dame.
27.
Like, if you just join them, like,
That's what I thought.
goodness
This is just like
gracious,
a conference game.
goodness.
So Notre Dame at six, LSU at seven, Georgia at eight, Alabama at nine, Illinois at 10. Uh,
Joel, what's going on, Joel?
yeah, I
Joel,
guess you'll have to listen to the Joel Klatt show
I
to, I guess, get
guess
some of his reasoning. That was some
Penn
of my
State at one's
speculation, at least
weird.
the first few.
Penn State at one's weird to me.
Penn
I
State would be in my top five,
they'd be in my
knowing
top
just that they
five,
got,
but not
yeah,
one.
at one, I'm just kind of like, okay, that's a major projection. And I guess you're assuming that since
I mean,
Texas lost a lot to the NFL, Ohio
I,
State lost a lot to the NFL,
I
and
guess
Oregon lost a lot,
my
that
thing
just
is,
means that Penn State, since they do have a really nice returning base of
yeah.
players, that just means that by default they're one. I'm not buying it.
My thing has always been like, if you're doing the pre, like before the season, I always put the national champion number one, because it's until they get beat, until they get proven they're not the champion. I've always felt you put them at one. And again, it's not being a bias. I did this last year when Michigan, like, I put them at the top at the beginning. Like, I've always said that, Georgia and so on, because they were the number one team, right? They're the one that won the national title. So that one I understand. Clemson in the top five is like, sorry? Like, where have we seen of Clemson that says they're a top, like, even eight team?
Yeah,
When you have
I've
Georgia and Alabama at 8 and 9, like, what? Excuse me?
yeah,
Okay.
that one
Is it
like I
because they got a
said,
basketball guy at tight end? Is that what it is? Is like that? This is what wins it over?
like I said, this is like going to be not my best reaction because there's not a whole lot of prep that went to it. I don't know what kind of an offseason Clemson has
But
had or
still,
how they've
though,
done recruiting, but they've been seemingly on the decline, and I don't know what's gone well to put them at five outside of Cade Klubnik. Should be one of the better quarterbacks in the country,
should
but
be. Ugh,
um,
weird, gross.
reading JD Pickels, though, there's a lot of the same teams, just slightly different order. So he's actually got Texas at one,
I
and
can
Ohio
see it.
State at two.
I'm okay with that. I don't mind that. I really don't, because let's be honest, the best playoff game was Texas versus Ohio State. That was just the
Yeah,
best playoff
it
game.
was. And I think that in some order, like Penn State,
And they're going to
Texas,
play each
Ohio State
other.
would be my top three
And they're going to play each other. So
for sure. Yeah. Texas, Ohio State, Penn State would be my top three in some order. I have to look into that a little bit more, but Penn State is three for him.
that's
And he's
okay
got
with that. I'm
Clemson
okay
at
with
four,
that.
Oregon at
Okay.
five. So just flip flops. I guess Klatt's ranking him
Oregon's
there.
top five team. I don't mind that. Like, and also, can people
Yeah.
just stop saying that the Big Ten is not the top conference in football right now? Like, can we just Can we stop when you have multiple national outlets saying there's three Big Tens in the top five, and how many SEC teams are in the top five? I'm sorry, how many?
We got one.
One, one.
We've got
I just want
one.
to point that out.
JD's got Notre Dame at 6-2.
Notre Dame just I feel like they might have peaked. That might have been the peak of Notre Dame. There's a chance that
See,
was the
I don't
peak.
know. I don't know how many guys they lost, but they
No, I
made the
just mean
national
generally.
championship
I just
with a
think,
lot of injuries.
but I think they also got blessing on the side of the bracket they were on too.
Not
Let's be
only was
honest.
there, they did get a good
They got a
draw.
nice blessing.
They did get a good draw, but they had to beat Penn State. They had to beat Georgia. Like there were some
No,
tough
of
games that came
course.
across, but out of the way that it could have been drawn up, like Ohio State got, an awful draw. Like they had the hardest path and somehow won it all. But Notre Dame's wasn't as difficult, but they had to do it a lot all season long with missing pieces, injured starters, and I don't know
Yeah.
how many of those guys are back, but I don't know if Notre Dame's necessarily peaked, but I don't know if they're ever necessarily going to be like national championship
Yeah.
contender. But I think they are here to stay at least. Marcus Freeman's done well in
Yeah.
recruiting. LSU and Georgia are flip flopped for him, so he's got Georgia at 7, LSU at 8.
I just don't
Um,
trust. I don't trust what Kelly's doing at LSU. I just don't trust what he's doing down
I
there.
don't
I
either.
don't get
Like,
the direction. What's the direction they're going? Because they look so lopsided all the time. They look like they lose guys. They can't retain anyone. It just seems like it's just they don't know what their identity is. To be honest.
yeah, LSU at least. I think they actually had the best return on the spring portal from everybody. If you look at 247, I heard that the other day. But that's always been. It seems like the story
We
is like
can't beat Ohio State that
they
lost
figure out
zero scholarship players. So
like all 3 years that Kelly's been there, it's been like, okay, we're gonna go into this season with this expectation, and it comes out being less. So
the curse of saying a Southern accent when you don't have one. That was the curse.
it's definitely doing a number there. So he's actually got South Carolina at 9. I know Lenora Sellers.
I'm struggling with South Carolina's a team that yeah they can go 9-3, but I just don't know if they're a top 10 team. I
They
feel like they're on
finished
the
hot last year.
yeah,
It's just again, I don't know how
and
many
they
are
got Aaron
back, but
Nolan. They have our guy. They
yeah,
have our
Aaron
guy
Nolan will
now.
be there. Probably the quarterback of the 2026 season if things go the way that you'd expect. And then he's actually got Texas A&M at 10.
They have
If
a
you're
lot of
curious,
talent, but
that's been the story with Texas A&M is talent has never lacked in the building. Jimbo Fisher just can never get it fully realized, and we'll see if Mike Elko can do any better than him as he
I'm
spends
sorry.
more
Going
time.
back to the Illinois thing for Joel, why?
I don't know
That
why.
one's
I don't
even
know
weird.
why Illinois at 10, but JD actually has Illinois at 14.
Okay, I'm okay with that, but at 10, I feel like it's a little bit of a because I watched Illinois last year and I thought they were decent. I didn't think they were that good.
Yeah. It's one of those like classic Big Ten teams where it's like they'll beat the teams that they're better in. They'll go maybe 9 wins against the old Big Ten West, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. It is interesting, you know. Yeah, I mean, I was even thinking about Ohio State how they added Max Clare. Like they didn't need a tight end. They just went out and got one. Like that those are the
mhm,
best teams in the country when you don't need a guy but you're like, "You know what? It's like the Atkinson they got from North Carolina. Ohio State didn't need another defensive end, but they were just like,
right,
we can do it, so why not?"
right. So yeah, we'll be talking more. I guess once summer rolls around, we like doing the conference previews. That's when we really lock in and
Yeah.
refresh on how the off seasons went, who's all back, and give some more, I guess, accurate and
And we could see
educated
like what injuries there
picks
are, so we kind of figure out what's happening.
for sure.
But that, and I think that's the important thing, right? Like, um, for us, it's always a weird thing because the beginning of summer is kind of literally slow because it's mainly just baseball, maybe some little things here and there, and obviously as we get closer to fall, we start ramping it back up again. So, yeah, this was a good episode. This was like one of those episodes where I feel like we were just on the couch and we were just talking, like on a couch in the middle of like a living room, just talking about sports. And it makes
Our
me
Ohio audience will appreciate it
and speaking of Ohio audience, we didn't mention Josh. We were very mean. We did not mention a single thing about the Kentucky Derby. Kentucky Derby happens, and we didn't say a single dang thing about the Kentucky Derby. Do you know who won the Kentucky Derby, by the way, Josh?
Oh, I saw the name. It escapes me now.
Sovereignty. Sloth.
Sovereignty edged out journalism, right?
Yeah. Okay, this is my question for you. Speaking on this, because I've also been fascinated with horse racing, and it's fascinating. I watched it with my grandpa. My grandpa would be up late, and we'd watch it sometimes. But this is my question for you. If you could have a horse, you bought a horse, and you wanted to put him in the Kentucky Derby, what would be the horse's name? What would
The
be the
horse's
horse's
name.
name if you could come up
See,
with one?
everybody comes up with like these like fancy like character trait names, and I think mine would just be basically something.
Axe and sledge.
Name him Axe and Sledge. No, I think it would just be like a generic human name, like
Bill.
Jack or something like that. I don't know.
Bill the horse. Mine,
Bill the
I thought
horse.
about this. I thought about this good. I was thinking about this all afternoon, and
Okay.
it would literally just be eat more chicken. Like that would be the horse name. You just eat more chicken.
Do you think that the jockeys and the trainers and stuff are saying, "Good job, eat more chicken"? Do you think that's just like a nickname
Eat more
that they
chicken. Eat
fill
more.
out the
Come on, eat more
card?
chicken. Come on, eat more chicken. No, I
Yeah.
feel like it is the name. Like I feel like you name because like I've heard them. Like there's this place where the old horses like they go and like they basically retire and they just live in this farm and then like all their names are the same like that they were when they raced. So like imagine like there's like Bill Biper or something like that. Hey Bill, get over here, Bill. You know, like it's very interesting to me. But mine would be eat more chicken. I thought about that because I think it's a perfect thing. It's like kind of fun. Eat more chicken, or this is my other one, the boomstick. That would
The
be
boomstick.
the boomstick.
And you would call him the boomstick. You wouldn't call him boomstick when
It'd
you
just be the
speak face to
boomstick.
face.
It'd just be the
Hmm.
boomstick.
Okay.
And I asked my students this, and the students came up with a name actually at school today. And
Okay.
their name, I wrote it down. Their name is the Wild Thing, which that
The
one
wild
actually
thing.
seems
Okay.
cool. That one kind of feels like that would be like a horse's name, the Wild Thing, or
And then
Wild
when he
Thing,
comes out in like his blanket or whatever warm up suits they have, it can be
the
the Old
Wild
Minions Rick Vaughn
Thing.
jersey.
Yeah, the Wild Thing. You make my
Yeah,
heart. You know that whole song.
that whole
Um,
song. Yeah,
I think
yeah. I
also
think
for you,
I would be
Josh.
countercultural because
I
screw
think you're
Kentucky
no.
Derby
This would be yours,
tradition.
Josh. Yours would be muscles. I think we just call it muscles. Come on.
I mean, it would be on brand with me, but again, I think I would just come up with some bland generic human name like
Also, all
Jack
the
or something like
jockeys
that
are
to
also
make
like
everyone
five
mad.
foot tall, by the way. All the jockeys are like 5 foot tall.
You have to be. You don't
I
want
know.
anyone that's like 6 foot 250 on the back of that horse. It's gonna slow you down.
I know. Slow all those things down. But and also the record still stands for 53 years with the fastest time. I think it was minute 59 seconds was the fastest ever, which is crazy. Um,
Human athletes get better year after year after year, but I guess horse athletics
get
technology
worse.
just needs to get better. I don't know.
That is true. That's true. Anyways, hope you guys had an amazing time listening to us today. It was a little fun, a little crazy all in one together. But yeah, if you've enjoyed listening and watching us, go ahead and click that thumbs up on YouTube, click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, give us a share, give us a little rating. I saw someone the other day said they told me that they were listening to it at work while they were doing their accounting stuff. And I said, I guess that's what Josh and I have become. We've become the people
We
that
are
do
background
accounting
noise for
to our
accounting
accountants.
work. Yes.
That's how great we are. We are truly the face of the world that you listen to. But anyways, hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Hopefully it stops raining wherever you are and you can get a little sunshine and have a little fun as well. And until next time, we'll see ya.